Hi, this is David McKay with McKay Photography Academy and Photo Enthusiast Network, and I am bringing you a quick overview on how to get around Canon cameras that are what we call a two-dial system. Now, you may be looking at this photograph and maybe you have an R series camera, maybe one of the new R series mirrorless Canon cameras that have come out. I've got an R6 up here that would include several different R type cameras, and there's the R, the R5, the R6, the R10. There's various models. Or you may be looking at this and maybe your camera is one of the DSLRs, such as the Mark system, maybe like a Canon Mark IV, Canon Mark III. This tutorial will work for both of these cameras as far as getting around the basic dials of knowing how to change your shutter speed, your aperture called an f-stop as well, and your ISO. And that is all you need to know right now in order to get around the basic functions of the camera for if you're going into a class with us, or if you're just learning your camera, or if you're going on one of our McKay photo tours. This will get you started. Now, if you look at the top of your camera, you just look very much right here, kind of at the top, you're going to see a couple differences between a couple of the cameras. Again, this is not going to matter in terms of you changing your settings. It's really about how they have changed the models now. So most of the models up until this point in time have had a dial like this, and you may see that your camera has a dial like this. In order to do the full settings, you're going to need to be on the manual, which is the M. We're not getting into all of these at the moment. That will come in other later videos and tutorials, and of course while you're in the field working with our team. But you're going to want to be on M for manual. You're going to notice over here it is a digital readout. This is an easy analog dial. Here what you do is you're going to press the mode button and you're going to rotate the dial until you come through the M. You're going to notice that what shows up here would be exactly like a regular analog dial. It's just a digital readout. So right now I would like you to go ahead and make sure that your camera is set to M for manual. Getting around the Canon systems is super easy. And again, you may notice on this camera as an example, what I just showed you is actually a mode dial over here. So it's really easy. You just basically change your mode dial no matter where it's located on the camera. And we're going to get that again on M, off of automatic. This dial right here at the top front right of the camera on any of these systems, this is how you're going to control your shutter speed. So this is how we're going to learn to control the shutter speed. That will show up on a readout on the back of your camera LCD. It will show up right here. That's 1/200th of a second. And it also shows up when you look through the eyepiece down at the lower digital readout. So all of these cameras, it's important to understand, you can see where your settings are up on top. You can see it through the eyepiece, and you can see it on the back of your LCD. Go ahead and try that, and you'll notice that that changes your shutter speed. This one does not have a lens connected, but you do need a lens connected for all of this to work. And also, we're going to talk about another couple buttons as we proceed, such as how to change the ISO sensitivity. Now, the big difference between this and the cameras such as we call them the one dial camera system, and that would be cameras such as the EOS T series, like the T3, T4, T5, etc., etc. Those have just this dial, and on the back, rather than a dial here, they have buttons. So if you're looking on the back and you're not seeing a dial somewhere, it's very possible. Look at the camera that you have, the name of the camera. If it is the T-Series camera, you want to check out the other video that we have. Now, this one controls the shutter speed, and very simply, this one will control your aperture, also called an f-stop, and that's simply how you change between the two settings. Now, you're going to also notice if it's a two-dial system, there will be a lock down here. That lock button or lock little lever can be moved over to lock your aperture in place. So you could set it so that you don't accidentally scroll through it. I leave mine unlocked all the time, but if for some reason things are not moving, your aperture's not moving, make sure that it is unlocked. As an example, you'll see as I did a little bit closer on this other camera here, rather than a little lever, it actually says unlock. So again, make sure that's unlocked so that when you do scroll your dial, you will see your aperture changing. Now on the back of your LCD when it's on, or again through the viewfinder, or again on the LED on the very top of the camera, you will see these numbers. So quite simply, this is going to be your shutter speed changed with the top right main dial. And all of these dials will also function as other settings as well. In other words, you're going to change your shutter speed and your aperture and your ISO, but those main dials, that top dial especially, is going to also be used for other things on your camera. But when you're basically just shooting, you're already shooting, it's changing your shutter speed. That back rear dial, changing your aperture, and then we're going to have various ways that we can change our ISO sensitivity that we'll take a look at here in a second. Again, go ahead and play with that. Your shutter, your aperture, get used to changing those with your forefinger on the shutter dial, your thumb on the back rear dial. Not only look at it on the back LCD, but look through the viewfinder of your camera and notice where you see those changing as well. It's really important to understand that when you're shooting, you want to be able to change these settings on the go as you're looking through the viewfinder of the camera. So changing the ISO sensitivity settings, you're going to notice, again, based on the camera model that you have, whether it's one of the new R series mirrorless cameras, or if it's one of the older, not too old, but one of the older digital SLRs, such as a Mark IV, that your ISO settings can be in different places. So first of all, on the newer cameras, you're going to notice that there is a button here that is a function button. When you depress that button, you're going to be able to scroll through a number of items up here. So the mode dial, when you press that, will change the mode, manual, priority modes, etc. When you depress this, you're going to be able to scroll through the various settings such as your ISO, your different burst modes, your different focus modes, things like that. And you'll be able to use this dial to change it around, and also the other dial in order to change what is actually happening within that. So for instance, you can press that and you'll move to say what burst modes you have, and then you'll use the other dial to scroll through to choose the various options within that mode. And this is also how you can get to ISO. So you can simply do this and change the ISO. Back just a few models back where we had the ISO button here, which this took me a long time to get used to because I was so used to this system for so long, and I still really love this system on my Mark IV as an example. But here you simply can press the ISO button and bang, there's your ISO will come up and you'll be able to scroll through it very, very simply. So you can do that. Now in all of these cameras, you also have on the very back something called the Q button. And when you do the Q button, you press that and your entire LCD will light up and you can actually touch screen or scroll through the various items on the LCD to change it, including your ISO. So as an example, when that comes up on the LCD, you'll see all of your ISO options that you can absolutely scroll through. So there you have it, folks. That is simply how to get around your Canon camera to be able to change the settings of the shutter, the aperture, and the ISO. It's very simple. It is you choose the mode that you want, and then from the mode, you simply use the front dial to change your shutter speed. The rear dial is going to change your aperture, and then you're going to get into where the ISO is, either by the ISO button, the function button on the new R series cameras, or just simply hit your Q button on the back, and it will come up and you can select it and change it.